Hey everybody, welcome back aboard the great ship, the Space Show. I am your host, Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Frost, joined as always by Admiral Kerry Jackson, and joining us from the lower decks, Ensign Tony Eccles.
Lower decks.
Lower
decks.
We are recording on August 30th, 2024, which I believe is a day of significance.
Mm-hmm.
Can anyone tell me?
August 25th. Today is the day in 1997 that Skynet became sentient and started to take over the world. So there you go.
There's that, and
but specifically August 30th, 2024 is a date in Star Trek lore.
Oh,
yes.
We're on a Star Trek podcast.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Tony, we're going to talk about Terminator tomorrow on the other podcast.
Sweet.
It is the day that the Bell riots are supposed to begin, and I wish that they would.
Bell riots. Yeah. Was it this year too?
2024.
2024.
Yeah.
Cisco is in San Francisco right now.
Yes.
But what do the Bell riots lead to? What's their whole deal?
Oh, it's you're gonna get me. Maybe we should do a deep dive on this on Geekshow. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Because Leigh has this whole time. He has it all up here.
He has thought about it a lot.
My recollection is that this leads to Gabriel Bell pushing toward and he's a fact. That's why it's called the Bell Riots, pushing toward a more socialist society, one where we all take care of each other. And he's just in the timeline of Star Trek, in the history. They're saying it really kind of started all with the Bell Riots, because in San Francisco, in the Star Trek world, there are the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots are kept in camps, and they're not allowed to leave those camps. And Gabriel Bell kind of freed up the camps.
One might say these people were concentrated into some camps.
One might say.
Not to put a finer point on it. But yeah, maybe we'll do a deep dive on this on Geekshow.
Yeah, because we also gotta talk about how Elon Musk is like, hey, let's make Starfleet Academy real, and everyone's like, you are aware.
He stands for everything the opposite of Star Trek at this point. Besides space exploration, everything else he is the complete opposite of.
Well, and Robert Picardo slammed him on it.
Yeah.
Good job, Doctor.
And Jerry Ryan jumped in and said, you go, Doctor. That's my doctor.
Well, as we move toward a perfect socialist society, let's talk about these episodes. Some doozies. Some really good ones and some doozies. We got The Perfect Mate, Imaginary Friend,
My
Borg.
favorite episode.
Imaginary Friend?
No, The Perfect Mate.
Oh, of course it is, Tony.
I can't wait to hear this.
Borg, The Next Phase, and The Inner Light. So God, Tony,
what?
The Perfect Mate, Ferengi machinations unleash a diplomatic gift aboard the Enterprise. The rare, empathic, perfect mate, ready to bond with any male around her. I was pulling my hair out watching this episode.
I could not stop laughing during this episode because it was just so obtuse. Just is this real? This is what we decided to make an episode of Star Trek about?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
So, to end centuries of war, Krios and Vault Minor have agreed to a ceremony of reconciliation on board the Enterprise at a midway point between the two systems. Ambassador Briam is on the Enterprise from the Krios. He is carrying a special consignment in the cargo bay and asks Picard to declare the bay off limits to all for the duration of the voyage. They pick up a Ferengi distress call along the way and respond.
Those Ferengis.
First of all, you get a Ferengi distress call.
Leave
you
it. You never heard it.
Suspect. All right.
It's like,
what are they trying to pull?
If you hear someone if you're in the Appalachian Mountains and you hear someone calling your name, no, you don't. You just keep on going.
How do they know my name? I should go check it out.
Nope, absolutely not. So they transport the two Ferengi occupants on board before their ship explodes, and it turns out the Ferengi just wanted to get on board and laugh out how easy it was. Parlenor of the Ferengi trade mission enters the cargo bay and eyes the Krios cargo. Parlenor disrupts the energy field of the cargo, and Picard realizes that there is a humanoid inside in status. So it turns out the Enterprise is unwittingly used to present a unique gift to an alien race, a beautiful empath whose sole purpose is to please her mate. I'm trying not to puke just reading this.
It's Jean Grey. It's Jean Grey.
Her name's Kamala, played by Famke Janssen, and she has been brought out of status by the Ferengi prior to the scheduled time by the actions of the Ferengi. And
So she was undercooked.
Yeah, she wasn't quite done.
She was in cryo. She was just in cryo.
She's in stasis, hanging out.
And I am embarrassed to admit I didn't realize that was Famke Janssen.
Oh, really?
Well,
I immediately saw that and I was like, Jean Grey, what's she doing here?
But she she looked different than the Famke Janssen that we were later introduced to in James Bond and then X-Men.
Yeah, she was younger.
She was just way younger. She had those spots on her.
The spots. She had the very, sheer, gauzy dress.
This was her second acting role ever.
Oh, okay.
No, this was her debut.
No,
was it her very first?
I've got that her first acting role was on an episode of Fathers and Sons.
That's funny. The IMDb trivia says that this was her acting debut. Let's settle this once and for all. She's
don't know.
Dutch, by the way, if anybody cares.
The Dutch.
But she was a model in Europe for like 7 years, and then came to America and decided to be an actress.
You are correct, Fathers and Sons. But I guess it bet. Oh, so this is okay. Maybe this is her TV acting debut.
Well, Fathers and Sons was a TV series.
Right.
Really?
Anyway,
listen,
doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Doesn't matter.
Jeff Goldblum.
What?
Jeff Goldblum was there?
Was in Fathers and Sons? I had no idea.
Oh.
It looks like him.
Okay.
Okay. So Kamala explains that the Krios involved were brothers who ruled together and loved the same woman named Garuth. Krios abducted Garuth and ran away, which started the war, Helen of Troy, blah, blah, blah. And hence, Kamala is a gift from the Krios planet to the Vault leader, Alric, as a gesture of peace and as payment for the crime committed many generations ago. Mm-hmm. Because as we all know, women are chattel, women are currency.
Even Star Trek knows it.
Kamala is actually quite happy to be part of this transaction, as she is a metamorph and can sense the needs of potential mates and can adapt to become what they want. Literally trying not to vomit.
Yeah.
She can do that till she finds her life partner, with whom she must imprint to become his alone for the rest of her life. Female metamorphs are rare. One is only born like every 7 generations, and hence the Ferengi are, of course, interested in her. Expensive chattel.
Let me tell you what my problem was with this episode.
Yeah?
Not enough Ferengi. They got booted off the ship too soon.
They were. They came on, they caused the problem, and then they
just got booted off.
Yep.
Well, you guys, it gets worse. Okay, so Kamala was in status as metamorphs have a complex. What is? IMDb is full of typos.
Oh my
So you'll have to forgive me.
IMDb, great job.
It's metamorphs have a complex sexual maturity process, and in her current stage, she is producing copious amounts of pheromones that can drive men crazy. She drives Riker mad with a passionate kiss, to which the entire time she and Riker are in the same room. I've got my spritz bottle at the ready, like, Riker, no!
See, my absolute favorite thing in this episode, I was joking when I said it's my favorite episode, obviously, but I have a favorite part in this episode, and that's after that scene when he walks out of her room and he says, Bridge, I'll be in holodeck 4 for the next while. That was basically, I'll be in my bunk.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yes,
I'll be in holodeck 4 for a while.
I'll be accessing the Vulcan Love Slave program in holodeck 4.
Pull up my permanent Risa file, please.
I couldn't handle it. I laughed so hard.
I gotta go jerk off in the holodeck.
That's what he said.
That is what he said. I'll be in my bunk.
But hey, I gotta give Riker a compliment.
I guess
he did it. He
kudos to you, sir, for walking away.
Yep, he made it out.
I guess
because this is the first time that he's just
for Riker. This is a massive step,
from an offer. So
hey, I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to interrupt the reconciliation between two warring planets. Never.
Wouldn't do that.
What an episode.
Beverly rightfully complains that Picard is delivering Kamala into a life of prostitution. Picard checks in on Kamala, and she is head over heels for Picard.
Yeah.
And not only she's cool with it, but she's also like totally fascinated with Picard.
She wants that Picard peen. What?
He insists that foregoing pleasing her mate is like asking a Vulcan to forego logic or a Klingon to forego violence. I don't know, man. She comes on to Picard and offers to be as he would like her to be, as that's what she's been bred for. She has this line where she is like, the thing about, I don't remember the exact quote, but being with a metamorph is we learn what you like, so the second time is even better.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I think you could hear Picard go gulp.
Swing. So Picard assigns Data as a chaperone.
Good idea.
Genius idea.
Mm-hmm.
And she continues to try to seduce Picard, and he is very professional. Very professional. So the Ferengi offer Briam 20,000 gold pieces for this woman. And he resists and threatens to inform Picard, but the Ferengi throw him down, injuring him badly and rendering him unconscious. The Ferengi are taken into custody and transported to a Federation starbase. Yeah. I hope they die there. Picard says that the conference will have to be delayed, but Kamala says that she has to imprint on her mate within 2 days, or else she will lose that ability. After that period, she will turn 30 and unwanted.
Exactly.
It's Star Trek for if you don't use it, you lose it.
That's right. Leonardo DiCaprio knows what she's talking about.
Exactly. She wants Picard to complete the negotiations. She prepares Picard in the Maltese customs and tells Picard that on the eve of her nuptials, she is understanding the meaning of free will. On the morning of the ritual, Kamala reveals to Picard that she has already bonded with Picard. She belongs to Picard now, and she will remain his forever. Alrik is waiting for them, so Picard guides her there. Picard delivers Kamala, and Alrik leaves with her. Briam recovers, and he leaves. And okay. End of episode.
End of episode. Yeah. Yep.
What the thing about this episode, and as it is, the conversation between Picard and Beverly about, Beverly doing the whole prostitution shtick, and Picard is doing the can't interfere prime directive thing.
Prime directive, yeah.
And I'm yelling at the TV, "You're both right."
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Yeah.
It's like Civil War, the Marvel movie that I love so much. Cap and Iron Man are both right.
Yep.
Anyway.
Everybody's got some good points.
Yeah.
There was an alternate ending considered during production where Picard put a stop to the wedding right in the middle of the ceremony, but it would all be revealed to be in his imagination.
Oh, I love those. I love those endings.
Super duper.
Yeah.
Glad they didn't go with that.
I also really loved seeing in that episode when Worf gets mad at all the guys at the bar when Data takes her to the bar, and then as she's walking away,
why would he take her to the bar?
Yeah, exactly. Come on, Data. As she's walking away, she growls at Worf, and he turns around and growls back at her.
Ma'am. Oh my.
She knows exactly what to do.
That's right.
That whole bar, she was flirting with that entire bar.
Every single person.
Data literally takes her to 10 forward, and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Put her in her room and don't ever let her leave.
Holodeck at the very most,
Good
exactly.
Golly. Well,
just not the same holodeck that Riker went to.
No, that
it has to be mopped out first.
I think they actually destroyed it.
Just jettison that pod out.
Burn it with fire.
Yeah.
Commander Robert Neal is beaming in, but But he is not hopefully we'll talk about this scenario in a further episode.
Yeah, that's right. Fitting.
No, but until he arrives, we're going to start talking about Imaginary Friend, a powerful, potentially dangerous energy life form intent on scouting out the Enterprise, steps into the role of a girl's imaginary friend. I'm going to get a piece of trivia out of the way really quick.
Okay.
This provides the only view of a toilet in Star Trek.
Really? Huh. Never would have.
And I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either.
I don't either.
Maybe the toilets look different.
So
see that potted plant? It's actually a toilet.
Anything's a toilet if you try hard enough. So young Clara Sutter, like many girls her age, has an imaginary friend. She recently came on board the Enterprise with her father, who is an engineering officer, and she hasn't yet made any real friends. Counselor Troy assures Clara's father, Daniel, that it's perfectly normal and she has nothing to worry about. Clara invented Isabella, as Daniel moves ships a lot, and Isabella is the one friend who doesn't change every time she moves ships. Totally logical.
Yeah.
So the Enterprise arrives at a nebula that's formed around a neutron star, and this is when a sentient being enters the ship as a particle of pure energy. The being goes through many parts of the ship, observes Beverly, Data, Geordi, many more, and that's when it observes Clara playing alone and referring to Isabella. It enters Clara's brain and spawns as Isabella, a child with resting bitch face. Can you believe it?
I know, right? I was going to say the same thing.
She did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clara is shocked to see her friend Isabella suddenly appear before her. In fact, Isabella is a sentient being that has taken human form only to scout the ship and learn more about it. This girl, can we go to engineering? Can we go to engineering? Can we go hang out in engineering?
It sounds like a lot of fun.
I got really annoyed during this episode. Like, I was just like, come on, let's get going.
Yeah, I didn't care for this episode.
Yeah.
I did a lot of doom scrolling during this episode. Yeah.
Samesies, yeah.
The Enterprise meanwhile continues to explore the nebula and takes readings. Meanwhile, the Enterprise hits something and starts dropping forward in velocity, but the sensors are showing nothing. Blah, 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 blah. So Clara brings Isabella to engineering, and Isabella goes invisible around adults and is only visible to Clara. Isabella fixes the problem of dropping velocity. Data and Geordi are perplexed. Blah, blah, blah. Worf finds Clara running around the ship with a girlfriend of hers, but doesn't give it any more thought. Who would?
Yeah.
There's so many children on the Enterprise. Who can keep track of them?
I mean, Worf can't even keep track of Alexander. So
boom, roasted.
Deanna notices that Clara is visiting engineering and 10 forward and blaming everything on Isabella. Clara claims that Isabella is making her do things that Clara knows are wrong, but claims that Isabella doesn't listen to anyone. So Deanna speaks to Daniel. They decide to take Clara to a ceramics class, which separates Clara from Isabella. And Isabella is pissed, and so the Enterprise starts experiencing issues again. Geordi takes samples from the nebula. Science. So what they essentially do is they project the warp field outside of the ship, and string theory reveals 47 million strands surrounding the ship outside the nebula.
It's basically a giant spider web.
Basically, Tolian web all over again. Mm-hmm. Isabella is mad and disrupts Clara's ceramics class and even enters Deanna's cabin and throws her hot chocolate. Again, I am begging these Star Trek writers to give Deanna any other kind of personality trait, because Deanna goes to her quarters and she goes, hot chocolate from the replicator, and gets a hot chocolate. And then later she's in 10 forward eating a chocolate cake or whatever. And that's all she does ever.
I say, that hot chocolate looked really weak too. Like super
it did look pretty
thin,
weak.
Not yummy.
I mean, it was Swiss Miss. It wasn't.
Barely.
It was from a packet.
Yeah, it wasn't really good stuff. It wasn't.
That's watered down. And can we talk about the ceramics class
that
they go to? Because Deanna's like, why don't you go sit with Alexander? And Alexander is making this chalice for his dad. Yeah. And it is a honk of clay.
It's probably 4 pounds of clay.
I was like, what is your plan here?
This was the murder chalice that he was making for his dad. This, if he finished the blood wine, then he can kill someone with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boom, bonk on the head.
Tradition.
So the Enterprise tries to navigate its way out of the nebula. Isabella warns Clara that now that she doesn't care about her, and when the others come, she will die with the others. Clara is terrified, and confides in Daniel and Deanna. And when Deanna meets Clara, Isabella materializes and zaps Deanna. Deanna recovers in sickbay, but this obviously escalates to Picard and Beverly. For Picard and the crew, determining the being's intent is key to determining the next step. Meanwhile, strand density in the nebula has increased 10 times, and the speed of the ship is down by 22%. More energy vortexes, similar to Isabella, approaches the ship and suck the energy from the shields. Picard goes with Clara to meet Isabella. Isabella says that her species wants energy and will destroy the Enterprise, as she has determined humans are cruel and uncaring species because of the way everyone has treated Clara. Picard explains how humans care for their children. Clara herself tells Isabella not to hurt the ship. Isabella turns into an energy vortex and leaves. And the end of episode. I love when Star Trek episodes just end so, oh, okay.
So, problem solved.
There it goes. Episode over.
And somewhere in this episode was a toilet. I couldn't tell you where.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Maybe that's what Alex was making.
No, wait, wasn't there a toilet in Star Trek 5 when they broke him out of the jail? There was a toilet. Kirk was sitting on it, but the lid was closed.
Yeah, but that's like on Earth.
Right? No,
That's
that was on the Enterprise.
Is that a space toilet?
Space toilet on the Enterprise in the jail cell that Scotty broke. Can't you see I'm breaking you out of jail? Anyway, all right.
Well,
IMDb,
listen.
You are batting 0 this day.
I mean, well, here's the thing. I've done a quick Google toilets in Star Trek. Reddit. Why are there no bathrooms in Star Trek? Memory Alpha. There's a entry for toilet. Cora. Why don't we see toilets on any Star Trek starships?
I'll tell you why. Our technology has progressed past needing a toilet. You don't need it. You just beam all of the goopy goo gross out of your body into space.
When will we finally see a toilet in Star Trek? Maybe in Hogwarts. You know how in Hogwarts J.K. Rowling said you could just shit anywhere and magic it away?
She said that?
Oh my God, Tony. Yes. This is one of the many retrospective batshit things that she has said. Where before Hogwarts had plumbing, people were like, how did people go to the bathroom at Hogwarts? And she said, because of the robes, you could just squat and piss and shit and nobody would know. And you could just magic it away.
And you're going.
And also, Dumbledore's gay? Question mark?
Yeah. And throw this on the end here.
But Tony, I hate to break this to you. They don't shoot garbage into space on Star Trek.
It goes into the replicator.
Oh, that's right.
It goes into the replicators. You eat it.
That's right.
It's
just molecules.
We're using all parts of the buffalo here.
That's right. It's just atoms.
So maybe there's a reason that Deanna's hot chocolate look weak. Maybe.
You'd think it'd be darker.
A little bit.
Let's move on to some of the more hearty episodes, okay?
Yeah. These start to get better, yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Borg. The Enterprise finds a lone Borg drone separated from the collective and brings him aboard. The drone begins to reassert his individuality, but his presence causes differing levels of fear and sympathy from various crew members. Fantastic episode. I was getting pissed off. Like, how dare they make me care about a Borg? Mm-hmm. So they are prospecting the Argolis cluster as a potential Federation colonization area. And the Enterprise receives a message from a viable moon of the fourth planet. They find that there's a crashed Borg craft emitting a homing signal with 4 crew corpses and a single male survivor who is beamed aboard as Dr. Crusher's medical help was needed. Worf wants to kill it. Picard wants the away team to get out, but Beverly persists and says that she wants to stabilize it. Picard neutralizes the homing signal of the Borg survivor. Geordi repairs his cyborg technical parts and Beverly his biological organs. Picard wants Geordi to study the Borg programming and determine if the root command structure of the Borg can be altered. If yes, then the Borg can be mutated into a virus and reintroduced into the collective as a Trojan. Geordi and Data know that once the Borg's network computer systems are down, they would be exterminated within a few months at most. Beverly says this is the equivalent of exterminating an entire race without a formal declaration of war. Oh. Is that Hugh Borg?
Is that Hugh? Yeah,
Hugh Borg action figure from the Playmates line. Yep.
Nice.
What's his last name? Borg?
Borg.
Hugh Borg.
And Beverly here, she makes a good point about how we can't just exterminate an entire race.
Yeah. That's called genocide.
That's called the genocide. Riker says that Borg have no civilians. Beverly says that her patient is not a collective or a hive, but a living, breathing boy. She is not okay sending him back to his people as an instrument of destruction, and Picard is adamant that the Borg are a threat and need to be dealt with as such. A lot of conflicting moral queries here. So the Borg male is very afraid as it is away from the collective for the first time. It is imprisoned in the brig with a force field around it, so it cannot send its homing signal outside. During further tests, the Borg male proves surprisingly cooperative in order to be fed energy. They rename... This Borg calls himself Third of Five, because he is the third of 5 other Borg. They rename him to Hugh, and although even alone he still talks as we, he proves quite open. Guinan also has a history with the Borg, tells Picard that the Borg will come after them, and it is not a wise choice to keep Hugh on board.
Oh yeah, she's just completely anything hard to do with the Borg.
Get it out.
Yeah.
So do we know before this episode that it was the Borg that destroyed her home planet?
She had mentioned it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Because we learned a lot about it when Picard gets assimilated.
Okay.
Because she is like, these fucking guys, ruthless monsters. Do not give them the benefit of the doubt. So Guinan tells Picard that the Borg will come after them, and it is not wise to keep Hugh on board. Feeling sorry for the Borg will only earn them another attack from the collective. Hugh answers all questions as best he can and also shares his hardware with Geordi so that Geordi can study it in more detail. With every step, Geordi gets closer to how the Borg process their information, and Hugh learns from Beverly that humans do not want to be assimilated. Hugh learns to understand human resistance to assimilation to the Borg collective. Guinan is angry that Geordi is developing friendly feelings for the Borg. Meanwhile, Data picks up on a Borg ship on long-range sensors. It will reach their location in 31 hours and is similar in size to the one that was found crashed on the moon. Data and Geordi have devised an unsolvable geometrical problem that could cause the Borg collective to break down in overload. Guinan tells Picard to speak to Hugh once before he uses him to destroy his entire race, because Guinan is very much like, hard no. And then Geordi says, maybe go talk to him. And she does. And even Guinan is like, okay.
Yeah. Well, crap.
But Picard also is like, yeah, hard no. Like, fuck these guys, right? So.
Which to me was interesting throughout this entire episode up to the end, because you don't think he would view it as, oh, they were able to save me. Maybe we can save this one.
That's what I was thinking too.
So the whole episode, I'm just like, why? Come on, Picard.
Beaming in, Robert.
Hey.
Just in time for Hugh the Nice Borg. There he is.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Apparently not. Okay, well. Can't see or hear anyone.
He cannot see or hear anyone.
We can see you and hear you.
we can see you and hear you. Subspace interference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
While Robert's figuring out his transporter issues,
he's an IT too.
Oh man, that's a low blow.
He can't hear me.
Being a person in IT myself, that hurts.
He can't hear me. He can't.
Look, he ran away.
So Picard decides to speak to Hugh, and Hugh is like, "Oh, Locutus."
Yeah,
and Picard's like,
"How are you?"
Right.
But he immediately goes into, "Yep, I'm Locutus, and you need to listen to me."
Yeah. So Picard speaks to Hugh and finds out that Hugh has become a true friend of Geordi, refusing to help assimilate him.
Well, that's what he was pretending to be Locutus, saying, "Why haven't you fulfilled your programming? Why haven't you assimilated this ship? Why haven't you done this? I order you to do this." And Hugh was like, "But Geordi is my friend,
Yeah, I don't want to do these things anymore."
Friend. Picard wants to leave Hugh's memory intact and not implant the virus program. He feels that the sense of individuality that Hugh has now will itself act as a virus inside the Borg collective. I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, no, that's a stretch and a half. When he said that, I was like,
that's
okay,
wishful thinking.
Really? Come on, man.
We'll infect them with kindness.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll win this campaign with joy. The Borg ship is 3 hours away, and the plan is to leave Hugh on the moon that he was originally found on. And this whole ending.
It's rough.
Roof stoof. So Beverly points out that Hugh may not want to go back. Moral doubts cause asylum aboard. So, okay, he has moral doubts abound. So Picard is like, we can offer you asylum. And Hugh is ever dutiful, and Hugh wants to stay with Geordi, but he knows that the Borg will follow him.
Exactly.
So he says that he wants to be returned to the crash site. Picard agrees, and Hugh is taken away by his Borg collective brothers. Brutal. Nuts. I can't believe I cared about a Borg. How dare they make me care about a Borg, especially because I know how Picard ends.
Well,
yeah.
But here's the thing: is that the Borg were extremely popular on this show, and so the creators of the show and everybody's like, can we bring the Borg in? Can we do that? And the writers are like, they're all powerful. We can't do that. And then Jerry Taylor apparently saw Edward Scissorhands.
Oh.
And went, I think I got something here. Threw that out there. It was a very popular episode, this one.
In 2002, TV Guide magazine ranked this the 5th among the greatest episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I can see why.
I mean, I've got a list here of like the AV Club, Sci-Fi, Empire, Screen Rant, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Newsweek, Forbes. They all list this as one of the better episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Conversely, the late great Jeff Weiss hated this episode.
Really?
Oh, for real?
He used to make fun because I bought the action figure, and he goes, "Oh look, you got Hugh, the nice Borg. I'm Hugh, the nice Borg. Don't hate me." He hated this episode.
Have you ever met a nice wasp?
Hey, that's a good point.
So this episode was Michael Pillar's favorite episode of the 5th season, and he called it Everything I Want Star Trek to Be.
Oh, look at that.
Isn't it
Mad
funny
respect.
how you go from The Perfect Mate 2 episodes later to Borg, and it's like, holy, this is the same show?
Yeah.
Same writers?
Exactly.
Jerry Taylor, as mentioned earlier, provided an uncredited polish on the script and thought that they could never treat the Borg the same way again after this.
Not so much.
Curious.
We get back to their old Borgy ways coming up here soon enough.
Yep.
The title is a reference to I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. It had a similar story of a robot believed to have evil intentions, but as the story progressed, he was discovered to be very human with many human ideals. Jonathan Del Arco, who played Hugh, was a fan of Star Trek, the original series, while growing up, and jumped at a chance to be on The Next Generation. He had auditioned for the role of Wesley Crusher, but when it was given to Will Wheaton, he was so disappointed that he refused to watch Next Gen until he got a chance to guest star on it.
I will boycott until I'm on this show.
I will never watch this show. Do you want to be on it?
Okay, I guess.
Okay. Should we see if Robert can beam aboard?
Give it a try, I suppose.
Robert.
Can you hear us?
Commander.
He cannot hear us.
Hey, look,
Lord,
I'm not saying anything. I'm the old guy with no tech experience, so
and yet here you are.
And here I am.
No problem.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay. Transporter malfunction. Next episode, the next phase.
Right here.
A transporter malfunction combined with a Romulan ship under stress and a damaged cloaking device creates the illusion that Ensign Ro and Geordi are dead, but Geordi doesn't believe it to be so, and he acts accordingly. This is what was so great. So the Borg episode ends, and I'm like, okay, great. this episode starts immediately Romulans, and I'm like, we're just bringing all my least favorite villains.
You don't like the Borg?
I mean, they were so mean, dude.
Yeah, they are. That makes them a villain.
And then the Ferengi earlier.
Well, and you've got a lot of Romulan goodness coming your way on Deep Space Nine. So, a lot. It's a big factor. Big factor.
All right. Well, the Enterprise successfully responds to a Romulan vessel's engine failure distress call. Riker's rescue team with Ro and Geordi loses all trace of Geordi and Ensign Ro when they beam back aboard with the failed graviton field generator of the Romulan ship. They were bringing the field generator back for replication as it has been completely depolarized. Mirok is the science officer and is in charge of the Romulans as their captain is dead. Meanwhile, Riker must save the Romulan ship from exploding. He asks for replacement crews, which are delivered by shuttlecraft, but the ship's engine core overheats rapidly and there's no option but to dump the entire core into space moments before it explodes. And when Geordi and Ro are beaming back and then they're lost to the pattern buffer, all I could think was, wow, McCoy was right. We should fear the transporter.
Believe me, the beginning of season 6, the first few episodes are, a big school about transporters. Trust me.
Yeah, they are not to be trusted. So Data ponders on the appropriate memorial service given their different cultural traditions, but Ro and Geordi find that they are transported aboard the Enterprise, but they are not visible to anyone. And they are not heard by anyone else either. They can't touch anything on the ship as their body goes through all kinds of matter.
Except the floor. They don't fall through the ship.
Hey, and when it's going, they don't stay.
And when it's going, they don't stay where they're at.
You know what? You make a pretty good point.
It's ghost rules. For some reason,
yes,
you don't fall through the ground.
That's it. I'm looking it up now, and that tracks. It's ghost rules. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Damn, I didn't think about it.
I totally brought your train of thought to a complete screeching halt. Sorry about that.
Okay, so they can interact with each other.
Yep.
They can touch each other as well. They see that they have been presumed dead by their colleagues, and Ro is very quick to be like, "Oh, I'm a ghost."
She's we're dead. Obviously, we're dead.
Time to do dead person things.
Where's Geordi?
Well, that's the thing. The Bajorans are very religious people. Yeah. Where Geordi is the scientist. He's just like, no, I don't think we're dead.
Right. Geordi is like, no way. Yeah. We can science our way out of this. And that's something I love about Star Trek is we embrace problems with science.
Yeah. This episode, I think, cemented that for me. I think Geordi is my favorite character of Star Trek
He's
The
a
Next
cool
Generation.
dude.
Yep.
Okay.
I think he's my favorite.
It's
him or Data. I can't decide. I love both of those characters so much.
If I had to
they're
pick,
they're always together. They're always friends.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Riker works on fashioning a new engine core for the Romulan ship while powering it with energy transmitted from the Enterprise. Worf objects to this. Worf objects to Federation tech being given to the Romulans, but agrees to giving an old engine core from 30 to 40 years ago. They can have my old iPhone too.
No, this is good security practice. I commend Worf and Riker for finding a solution to that. Mm-hmm. Good job.
Geordi gradually works it out, like Data in the material world, that they must be affected by a Klingon-type cloaking technology aboard the Romulan ship interfering with another damaged system. During the accident, the Romulan cloaking device was also damaged and leaked chronoton particles, which got mixed up with the transporter beams and got transferred to the Enterprise with Geordi and Ro. Riker thinks the Romulans were testing a new warp design and it blew up in their faces. Data decides to travel to the Romulan ship and check out their transporter and cloaking devices. Geordi and Ro go with Data. Geordi figures out that the Romulans were trying out a new technology combining a phase inverter and a cloaking device. This would render their ships impervious to conventional weapons when cloaked. He thinks this is what happened to them during transportation. Geordi and Ro overhear Mirok discussing that their phase inverters will be discovered and their secret will get out, and he makes a plan to accumulate the chronoton particles inside the Enterprise warp core, which will explode as soon as they go to warp. So Ro discovers that there's a Romulan that came on the shuttlecraft with them from the Romulan ship to the Enterprise, who is ready to protect the secret by killing them. The Romulan confronts Ro on the bridge and demands to see Geordi. Geordi, meanwhile, discovers that anion beams can reverse the impact of chronoton particles. Ro was attacked by the Romulan and is saved by Geordi, who arrives just in time to push the Romulan out into space.
See?
Get wrecked.
Works for the Romulan, but yeah.
Yeah, he just pushes him right out the wall. So,
Meanwhile,
I had the question watching. I'm like, well, how long has this poor Romulan guy been a ghost on the Romulan ship? How long has he been just like, nobody can see me or anything? So.
Meanwhile, the Romulans have switched to internal power and the Enterprise is ready to warp out. But at the last second, Data says that Picard should not engage warp until all chronoton particles have been removed from the ship. Geordi and Ro attend their own funeral, which is very jazzy. 10 Forward is decorated to the nines with balloons, and Riker's like, don't worry, I brought my trombone.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm so glad he got to play his trombone again.
They attend their own funeral and flood the room with chronoton particles, forcing Data to flood the room with anion beams so that they can both come out of phase and are seen by the entire crew. It goes as planned. Data and Picard are able to see the ghosts, ghosts of Ro and Geordi as they materialize for brief seconds. Data puts it all together. Our friends return, and they say, hey, don't go to warp yet. Please, for the love of God, please don't go to warp yet. We gotta fix this real fast. But
we
otherwise,
just got done being dead, kind of. We don't want to really die.
Yeah. Something I really liked about this episode, there's still tension between Riker and Ro.
Yeah.
Like, even though I thought they worked it out in the remix, like, they still have like a lot of tension. Ooh. And even when she's wandering around 10 Forward with the phaser, she shoots Riker in the head.
Right in the head. She like, really wanted to know what he was gonna say about her. She really wanted to know.
I mean, isn't that I want to know what my enemies are saying about me.
Enemies? They're not enemies.
Well, the people at work that you don't like.
Yeah, I want to know what people are saying about me. Some trivia about this episode. This episode was originally intended to be a cost-cutting bottle episode, but it wound up being one of the most expensive episodes of the season.
Special effects to have them phase through all the stuff.
Special effects.
All that. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this episode was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Sound Mixing.
Huh.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't notice anything really special about it, but
I was going to say it seemed like another day at the office to me, but anyway.
Should we try Robert one more time?
He's shaking his head.
He's shaking
he says
it.
no.
Oh, he can hear us.
Oh, you can hear us. Okay.
He's also a ghost. Well, but we're moving on to one of the best episodes of all time. So
really
they say.
Good. Really,
that's what they say. Yeah.
The Inner Light. Picard awakes to find himself living in a small village where he is a well-known member of the community who is suffering from a delusion of being a starship captain. Not long after the Enterprise approaches an unknown buoy or satellite, Captain Picard falls unconscious on the bridge after being hit by a particle beam. He awakens in a village where he is married. His name is Pieman, and Pieman is considered something of a village eccentric who thinks he is a spaceship captain by the name of Picard. His wife Eileen tries to soothe him, and his good friend B'Etai does not judge him. They all believe Pieman has a memory lapse due to the high fever he has been under for 3 days. He is told that he is on the planet Catan. Oh, much settling. B'Etai...
I didn't even think about that. Nice.
B'Etai is a council leader. Eileen has a necklace locket that looks exactly like a miniature version of the buoy that they encountered in space. Eileen says this is the first gift that Pieman ever gave her. He feels hungry, tired, and sleepy, and knows that this is not a dream. Eileen truly loves Pieman, and Pieman sends a message using the planet's communication system, but receives no response. So, question for the panel. At what point do you lean in? Because he's very much like, okay, where's my ship? I'm a captain. I do not belong here. And everyone's like, no. You crazy. When do you lean in?
I don't know. In this one, it was like, what, with him, 3-5 years? He decides, okay, I guess I'm here. I guess I would probably be on about the same timeline. If I haven't been able to figure a way back to this place, I guess it's like, well, I'm here. I
don't know. I'd start pretending immediately because I've read a lot of books and seen a lot of shows where when you don't, you die. So I'm just going to go with the flow for a bit at least and appease everyone and eventually try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, right. I'm the same.
That's just me. Yeah.
Okay.
And the same.
Okay.
What was Tony? We had this conversation, I think, about dark matter, where like if you show up in a new place, like you don't. Oh yeah, because that's what the guy does immediately, right? He immediately like is like making all the wrong decisions, in my opinion. Whereas you and I would survive.
I think so, yeah. And they rewrote his character somewhat to be a lot better at that in the TV show version. So
Yeah. Kaiman is an iron worker of the community and plays the flute. 5 years go by, but Picard is still trying to get back to his original life. The planet he is on is dying, however, suffering from a long and seemingly permanent drought. The administrator is against Kaiman's ideas to build atmospheric condensers to extract water from the air. The administrator says that building such a device would be a mammoth undertaking, requiring a lot of resources that the civilization does not have. Kaiman decides to live a full life on the planet with Aline. He has children, and he grows old. Picard/Kaiman names his son Bataille in memory of his departed dear friend and his daughter Meribor. What an unusual name, Meribor. Anyway, Kaiman says that he never realized that he would need children to fulfill his life, and he now cannot imagine life without them, is what I hear from most parents. On board the Enterprise, the crew is doing their best to revive their unconscious captain, but to no avail. They don't want to destroy the buoy until they know what it's doing to Picard. Data has figured out a way to reflect the beam back to the buoy and disrupt the signal, but Beverly wants to be cautious. Geordi figures out an emission residue on the buoy since it was using a chemical propellant, and says he can track the radioactive trace of the emission fuel and figure out what planet it's from. So Kaiman has a heart attack as they are doing this, and Picard starts to have spasms on the ship, and so it only stops when Data restores the particle beam from the buoy to Picard. Kaiman's daughter, Meribor, shows up, and she is curious as Kaiman collects soil samples that indicate the planet is dying. There are no bacteria in the soil. His young son, Bataille, is not focused and keeps changing his interests every week. Geordi tracks the origin of the buoy to the Catan planet. The star in the system went nova 1,000 years ago, and nothing's
no life
there
in the
now.
system. In the
There's
whole
nothing
system,
there
there's
now.
no life. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Kaiman argues with the administrator to make his research public. The administrator accepts that their own scientists reached the same conclusion years ago, but they have limited technology and are working on a plan to save some of the civilization. Aline dies, Meribor has kids, and Kaiman becomes a grandfather. She tells Kaiman how the civilization is launching a buoy. Kaiman is then visited by son Bataille, who tells Kaiman that the probe was designed to encounter a mind in the future and teach them about their civilization, and Kaiman was that person. The point of the buoy was to keep the memory of the people alive even 1,000 years after it died. Picard wakes up on the Enterprise after 25 minutes have passed. So he has lived an entire lifetime in the span of 25 minutes. Nuts. This is that episode of Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
the video game Roy.
But it wasn't even a full episode. It was just like 5 minutes in an episode, and the game was Roy, A Life Well Lived.
Yeah.
You kind of wasted your 30s with that bird watching phase.
You beat cancer, and you went back to the carpet store.
Boo.
And then Rick gets on, and he starts ripping up his identification cards. He's going off grid. Anyway.
Roy doesn't have a social security card. This also reminded me, there was a Reddit comment I read forever ago. I don't know how true it is. I think it's true. About this guy who was playing college football, and he got hit so hard, knocked him unconscious. And while he was unconscious, he lived a lot. He lives like 10 years. He met a girl. This woman became his wife. He had kids. He had a job. And then one day he's in his house and he notices a lamp, and the lamp just looks weird. And he becomes obsessed with this lamp. And like his wife even brings people in to like try to get him to like stop thinking about the lamp. And then all of a sudden he feels pain, a lot of pain, and he wakes up and he's back on the football field and being taken to the hospital. And then it ends with him like, I spent 3 years in a really deep, dark depression trying to reconcile that I had lived 10 years, lived a life, and now I'm brought back to this.
I think I believe that, because I've had some dreams once in a while that felt so vivid, that felt like regular reality, and that some time would pass in those dreams. and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, it's still the day that I went to sleep. What is going on here?
Yeah. This episode ended, and I was like, well, that was fucked up.
Yeah, and the way they end it in the capsule was the flute. That Pieman played 1,000 years ago. Picard picks it up and starts playing the song again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
fluently.
Man. Yeah, perfectly. Oh, that ending. Oh man.
Yeah, my first thought was get thee to Deanna ASAP.
Yeah, you're gonna see some serious counseling.
And that flute was auctioned at Christie's. It went for only like $300.
Really?
But then later, they resold it again to $1,200. It's a prop. It cannot be played.
Okay.
Then as the years have gone on, it is now up to $72,547.
Oh, wow. That's a good investment.
Oh, no, 78. No, wait. It's gone up to $190. Oh, no, wait.
Is this a real-time auction?
Real time.
Real-time auction. $213,000 for the flute,
Holy
which
cow.
is it's a prop and can't be played. It's just a prop.
But I think this episode is one of my favorite Star Trek: The Next Generation episodes. Like,
this was a really good episode.
It was super good.
I see this is ranked as one of, so let's see. It won the 1993 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. The award was given at the World Science Fiction Convention in San Francisco. It was the first Trek episode to win since The City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh, that's the one episode of the original series that I've watched. So I've already watched the best one. No need to go back.
McCoy.
What's that?
With coked out McCoy.
Yeah.
Miss that coffee you've got there. I'd sure like a cup of that coffee.
Some more. I've got quite a bit of trivia from this episode in no particular order. The young version of Bataille, Kamen's son, is played by Daniel Stewart, the real life son of Patrick Stewart.
Oh, did not know that.
He even references that in his memoir. Do I have that? Nope.
The Patrick Stewart memoir. He just wrote that just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, it's one of the best memoirs I've ever read. It's so good.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart nominated this episode as the greatest acting challenge he faced in the 7 years of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
He also says it's his favorite episode.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'm not alone in this.
Will Wheaton, it's also one of Will Wheaton's favorite episodes.
And he ain't even in it.
Oh, here's the quote. In his memoir, Making It So, Stewart wrote, I become someone other than Jean-Luc Picard over decades of living a different life and therefore become a different person, a domestic person, not a starship captain. And there is another personal reason. My son Daniel played my son in The Inner Light, and that was an extraordinary experience. The theme that Picard plays on the flute was turned into a full orchestral piece for Star Trek's 30th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
His recorder. As producer Ronald D. Moore commented, I've always felt that the experience in The Inner Light would have been the most profound thing in Picard's life and changed him irrevocably. But that wasn't our intention when we created the episode. We were after a good hour of TV. The larger implications of how this could really screw somebody up didn't hit home with us until later. That's sometimes a danger in TV. You're so focused on getting the show made every week that sometimes you suffer from the can't see the forest for the trees syndrome. We never intended it to completely upend Picard's character and force a radical change in the series, so we contented ourselves with a single follow-up in Lessons, which is the next season, I believe.
There are tons of reviews for this one. People ranking, different publications ranking it as top 5 to top 10 episodes of Star Trek. But I love this line from the Radio Times at the end of the episode where he's standing there with his reflection in the window playing the flute. It says, having experienced the loving family shown now, never has the dutiful captain looked so lonely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Even though he, all of that, he's never looked so lonely. I thought that was a great line right there.
I was thinking that exact thing as the credits started to roll and you heard him playing the flute as the ship slowly went off into the distance. I was like, oh, this poor guy. Holy cow.
Like a lifetime. A literal lifetime.
Lived a full lifetime. Completely changed his view on children. Because remember, up to this point, he hasn't really liked kids.
Yeah.
He tolerated Will Wheaton Wesley.
Wesley.
Yeah.
But he never really cared for kids. Now he's lived a full life where he had 2 of his own and grandchildren. Like could you imagine like the way that would affect a person?
The title of this episode, The Inner Light, it's a Beatles song.
Yes.
Song written by George Harrison, which referenced the Tao Te Ching, which basically that 47th chapter of the Tao kind of talks about how, you can experience a lifetime of memories all in your head in a moment's, and that's where this hippie Morgan Grendel, who created the episode, got all that from. I toss that in.
Something else about this episode too, it was a spec script. And so it was sent in by someone outside of the writing team in hopes that it would be used.
Oh,
and
wow.
Coincidentally, one of the most popular and hailed episodes of the show.
There you go.
I watched this episode last night and I was mad. This was the last episode that I had to watch. Because where do you go from here?
Oh, yeah.
How do you just go back to work?
Yeah. Like the definition of melancholy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and the next episode, The Inner Light, it's another day at the office, which, again,
Time Zero.
Yeah, maybe we're a Time Zero, yeah. Maybe we're not seeing these in the order that they happen to the characters. I don't know.
Or we don't know how much time actually happens in between each episode, in between each story.
That's
could
true.
Could be months later, could be hours later. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's our episodes for today. What do we think? Good batch? Good.
This batch started out weak and ended on one of the highest notes that you can get in Star Trek. The Inner Light's one of those that, when people say what Star Trek Next Generation episodes, that's one you point to. Because it's self-contained. It's, gives you something to think about.
It would be one of the world's most tamest Black Mirror episodes.
Yes.
But also still effective,
But also still super effective. Exactly. Damn Borg making me care about the Borg. But next episode, it's going to be one of our fun kind of mini episodes. We're going to talk about the season 5 finale, Time Zero Part 1, and the season 6 premiere, Time Zero Part 2. So not a lot of homework, but,
I will warn you, in the next 5 episodes that we're going to be watching, you're going to learn more about the transporter and how it works than you've ever wanted to know.
I love the transporter. There's always hijinks.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the transporter coming up.
So I'm a nervous flyer. I don't like flying. And so every time I do, I think of McCoy, and I'm like, he was right, but he still gets on the transporter and he still does it. If the man faces his fears, I can face my fears too.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I used to be quite the nervous flyer myself, and this is gonna sound morbid perhaps, but the way that I would finally got over it, and I don't have to do this anymore, but I would go prepare for the flight by telling myself, if I die, it's okay. if this is the one, so be it. And then I would get on the plane. And for some reason that calmed me down. I was like, okay, I've accepted it.
What calms me down is I think there are thousands and thousands of flights every day.
That's also a very good point. Yeah.
But I guess maybe just accepting my mortality is a good.
I mean, that's what you do what you got to do.
I wish I had, because you were talking about when you fly and McCoy and his true feelings about the transporter. I wish I had that whole segment that Carl Urban as McCoy when we first meet him.
Oh,
and when he first meets Kirk, that whole
on the
space is disease and death, and I wish I had that whole and why don't you try when your eyeballs pop out and you start bleeding I wish I had that whole bit memorized so that I could repeat it whenever I needed, whenever I'm getting on a plane. I was fine in there.
There's a movie that came out last year. Oh my gosh, I wish I could remember what it's called. It's on Netflix, but it is the story of the plane crash in the Andes with the soccer team. And they show the plane crash and what happened like inside the cabin in like excruciating detail. I think about that a lot too. Like, okay, if the plane crashed, this is what would happen.
Well, see, and that's another one of the things, as I tell myself, if I go, it's okay. Is if it's a plane crash, it's going to be fast. I'm not going to suffer.
The thing that scares me the most is I don't care for roller coasters. The fall. That's the part. Dying, I think I'm okay with. It's the fall leading up to that.
Just enjoy the ride.
And I'm going to tell you about it tomorrow, but I had such a great time with the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which is all about falling. That's all it does.
But
okay.
not only you don't fall at a normal gravitational pull.
No,
it pulls you down faster than gravity takes you.
It's got a device that pulls you down. I saw it in a documentary.
Death machine.
I love that ride. So here's the dialogue, and I'll try to acting. Ready?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where he sits down and says, "I may throw up on you," and Kirk says, "I think these things are pretty safe." The shuttle that they're in. "Don't pander to me, kid. One tiny crack in the hull and our blood boils in 13 seconds. Solar flare might crop up and cook us in our seats. And while you're sitting pretty with a case of Andorian shingles, see if you're still so relaxed when your eyeballs are bleeding. Space is disease and danger wrapped in darkness and silence." Well, I hate to break this to you, but Starfleet operates in space.
He's right, though. He's right about all those things that he said.
I love that movie so much.
In the Challenger book I just read, they talk about what happened to the cabin crew after the explosion, and they were alive as they plummeted to the earth. And the book talks about like what they might have been doing in the cabin during this time.
Yeah.
Oofa.
Like stuff like that I think about when I fly.
You see the simulated results of the submarine implosion for that those rich people that went down in the submarine and what it would have looked like inside.
But so fast that you never would have.
Yeah, they wouldn't have felt even a hint of pain because it would have squished them faster than their nerves could send the pain signal.
They wouldn't have even known. It just
crazy. Just game over.
Suddenly
you're done.
Suddenly you're in heaven
Or hell. You're dead.
Hell.
Yeah.
They're billionaires. They're probably in hell.
They were in hell. Yeah. And here's a confession, Rebecca. Big planes I don't mind. It's small aircraft. I refuse. You have no idea how often I've been offered, we've got a small jet, we can take you there, or how about this Huey helicopter from the military, you can go in that. We take you up in the chopper to Sundance. I've said no to all small aircraft because
a chopper? You mean the thing that killed Kobe?
Yeah, see what I'm saying? Because every day there's a story about a small aircraft going down.
Oh, those are much less safe than the larger ones, for sure.
But the larger ones go against God. They're so big.
Things that big should not be in the air.
Shouldn't be able to fly.
Well, I got nowhere to go. My wife took everything in the divorce.
Okay, well, all right. Thoroughly terrified now. Thanks once again for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time. But until then, we will continue to go where no man has gone before, but a lot of people have gone before. Thanks, everybody.